Let's quickly talk about the importance of timely planting in southwestern Nigeria. If you are an arable crop farmer, by now you should have known that it is highly important to be timely with your plantings. As you might have already known, here in southwestern Nigeria, we have the bimodal type of rainfall. So if you are doing the early season planting or you are doing the late season planting, you should know that it is very important to ensure that your plantings are timely. For instance, the early season for the year 2025 is fast approaching. We are expecting the onset of rainfall by say March, for instance. So by now you should be preparing your lands, you should be clearing, packing, burning, and the rest, so that before the full onset of rainfall, your land will have been fully prepared and you will be left with tillage. And one of the most important reasons why you should ensure that you do timely planting is that you avoid yield reduction. As you all know, we all have expectations for yield per acre or hectare basis. How do you ensure that you have your optimal yield without cutting down on what you should have got in the first place? Is by ensuring that you plant at the right time, because planting at the wrong time tends to expose your crops to droughts. And when your crops are exposed to drought in the early, mid, or late stage of their cycle, rest assured that you have contributed to a yield loss on your field. And another very important reason why you should ensure timely planting on your field is to ensure proper weed and pest management. What do I mean by weed and pest management? Let's start with weed. For instance, if you start your cultivation, if the full onset of rainfall starts by ending of March, for instance, here in the southwestern Nigeria, and you start your cultivations at that time, then you will have an edge over someone that is starting their own cultivations in maybe May, for instance, because at that time when you are planting, the weeds are they are very weak at that time. Like you tend to have slower weed emergence compared to when you are in the month of May. So weeds can quickly take over your farm in May compared to ending of March or say early April. And as for pests, it tends to help you control or manage or contain pest infestation as well, because at the early start of the season you tend to have lower pest infestations compared to the mid-season or the later part of the season. And also you have enhanced nutrient uptake for your plants if you plant at the right time, because early planting, your crops tends to have enhanced nutrient uptake compared to late planting, because in the middle of the season there are always tend to be leaching of nutrients. And if you had planted your crops earlier in the season at the right time, then you may not have to deal with nutrient leaching. So let me take you to a field where we'll have a practical look of things. The field was that of the late season planting of 2024. It was planted after the August break, where farmers do their late seasons. I'm going to be taking you through some of the practical things that happened in relation to that field, and I also explain some things that farmers of who had other farms different from this field, what they experienced in relation to the time of their planting and other practical things you should know. The video was recorded in December last year, 2020.
We are here in Ogun State, Nigeria. Ogun State is located in the southwestern part of Nigeria. So the farmers had thought that rainfall was going to last until November this year, because in previous years, Ogun State is one of those states that usually receives rainfall up to November. So, and the late season started kind of late, like there was serious drought in the middle of the year, and rainfall started after the August break. Meanwhile, in previous years, it usually started earlier than that time. Some were even hoping for rainfall to continue until December because it started late. So those who cultivated this field, they did that with the intention of the fact that there was going to be rainfall up to November ending. So they were rest assured that it was going to be a bountiful harvest, that their field was not going to experience any drought. But shockingly, there was no rainfall in September. There was no rainfall in November. Not a single rainfall was received in November. So it was a great source of concern for the farmers because the plants, the maize plants, they had just tasseled at that time, and I think some of them were starting to fruit. So they were starting to fruit and the rainfall has stopped. So there was no rainfall and it was a major source of concern for them. Well, they survived. They survived, and they, even though it's not as good as what it would have been if there had been sufficient rainfall, but they are still not entirely bad. Let me show you this crop. This cob. So as you can see, this maize here, this is a very full one. This is a very full maize here. So it is not entirely bad. This is very full, and this also, let's check this. So this also is very full. I think the fruiting of this one is complete as well. So they are not entirely bad, but there are farmers that had to pay for the drought that was experienced this year, and those are the farmers who planted later than the time this was planted. Like I said earlier, some farmers had hoped that there was going to be rainfall to December. So some farmers still planted maize until September ending, and some planted early October. So eventually, when drought came, they had not even started tasseling. So the plants withered, some of them died off, and some of them could not proceed to tasseling or fruiting. So in farming, it is always best, most especially if you are doing a rain-fed cultivation, it is always best to be very, very timely with your planting, because one of the greatest challenges that rain-fed farmers face is drought, and you have to make every plan to fight against it. Have a successful farming year ahead.